and Shropshire Health Informatics Services, who are a proactive 2-star certified service desk. And the service desk mission there is to work as a trusted and indispensable team to provide the best outcomes for customers and apply technology solutions and support, which is great. Really good galvanizing mission there. And Robert will be talking about their journey, the journey to become certified, and how they've transformed their service desk. So welcome, Robert, and thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you're there. You might be on mute. Let's see. Yeah, there's no sound at the moment, Robert. Let me just check. That's better. There we are. Yeah, you're a little bit low. Unless it's me. That's better. Just say a couple of words, Robert. Yeah, that's interesting. We have a technical issue. We can't hear you. And it's good because obviously Robert's part of the service desk. So Robert, I'm hoping Robert will be in a situation to identify the issue and fix it very quickly.
Here we go. Can you hear me now? There we go.
Perfect.
Nothing like a bit of excitement for first thing in the day.
I think you can claim that as first contact resolution, Robert, actually. So that's 100% today. That's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Thanks, David.
No, not a problem at all. Before we start, before we hand over, I just want to say, I've been sort of having a little look around and some stuff out there in the ether. And I just want to say a very, from SDI, a well done. Congratulations to Harry Lee at the service desk there. Sorry, he's awarded with Service Desk Technician of the Month for June, but also for May as well. So it looks like he's done a pretty good job. So well done, Harry. Thank you. And I'm sure.
Thank you, Harry. He's actually one of our contractors.
Is he? Wow, cool.
Nice. And he's only worked for us for a really short time, and it just really shows the training under difficult conditions, because they're actually working under COVID conditions in our office because our contractors and support staff can't.
It's a good. That's a really good story. So, without any further ado, look, Robert, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, David. As David introduced me, I'm Robert Stedall. I'm the first line service manager for Staffordshire and Shropshire Health Informatics Service. I've worked in IT and the NHS for 17 years and always in some way on the service desk. They have asked me today to come and talk to you about our certification journey and how this has improved services to our customers and staff. Who are we? Well, we're an NHS shared IT service. For those of you who aren't familiar with NHS shared services, we're organisations in our own right that provide services to a number of local trusts or organisations. The NHS encourages organisations to find cost savings and efficiencies through the use of shared services, and you often find them doing things like finance or HR or estates or in fact IT. We're governed by a board which is made up of our partners. These are Midlands Partnership NHS Foundation Trust, North Staffordshire Combined Healthcare, Midlands and Lancashire CSU. We've also got a number of organisations that we support as customers. These include people like Staffordshire and Fire and Rescue Service. They take our Wi-Fi offering, which they download their appliances to. So the fire engines take our Wi-Fi, which is quite cool. Staffordshire County Council, they take some of our phone service, our IPT services, and they also take redundant server farm usage in other areas from us. And Lichfield District Council. Under the CSU, we also support all the GP surgeries in Staffordshire via their care commissioning groups. And in practice, this means we support 18,000 users across 1,300 sites. Our IT department comprises of the service desk, registration authority team, second line support, second line IT orders, operational development, networking systems, security operations specialists, application development, data warehouse specialists, and professional change delivery teams. We also have the business support and BRO teams to support us. Besides traditional IT support, we also have a new product that is a business process application called Fusion. This was first developed as an offshoot to our workflows in our ITSM application, starting as a way of tracking and recording our internal absence, but then being used to support major flu vaccination programs, COVID antibody swab and lateral flow testing, COVID vaccinations, and child school-based immunizations. So far, the app has processed 109,000 cases with the lateral flow testing alone recording 152,000 results. Right. The service desk. Well, the service desk has got 12 service desk technicians, 1 apprentice, 5 bank members of staff, and 2 contractors and 3 supervisors. We're based in Trentham. As you said, Harry, he's one of our contractors. And recently we've brought in bank staff that aren't, they're not service desk engineers, but we lean on our bank through the NHS to bring in new staff as we need. We do train them up fully and give them the opportunity to train, say, with things like the service desk analyst training that we do. We really value the relationships we have in our service delivery department, but work particularly closely with our RA Smart Card team, the second line support and orders team, operational development, and the network and systems team, as well as people like our security specialists and our BRMs, which we can't do without. Due to COVID, we've had the majority of the service desk working from home, but since restrictions have eased, we've been able to continue our office-based operations, giving everyone the choice of working where they feel most comfortable. This means about half the service desk is not regularly in the office. We operate a service management tool called S&T. This product has been developed in-house by our app dev team and has been in operation since 2003. It's constantly evolving and changing as ITSM technology improves, and I'm sure you're thinking, oh, yuck, it's in-house. Everybody thinks that, I know they do, but it's honestly a very powerful tool and has to be seen to be believed. One thing we do differently and does present some challenges to the traditional ITIL structure is that our service desk and second line support team share a single work queue. This means that some of our reporting is quite interesting, but goes a long way to improving the relationships we have with them. So how did our certification started? It did feel like ages ago. Our first assessment was in February the 14th, 2019. And yes, ironically, 9 months later, we had our full first audit with John Nocta in October. Our first surveillance was in 2020. That was virtually held because we were in the middle of COVID. And our second surveillance is in October this year. So we're coming up to that again. We've had, so what year one challenges that we've had? Over the last 10 years, we've merged 2 organizations and had a number of managements of change. Managements of change, if you're familiar with the NHS, is a fancy way of saying we've changed the structure or we've moved jobs around or changed job names or anything like that. Well, we had 7. This was to mirror our local health economy landscape. So that means in practical terms that our organizations around us merged. For whatever reason, NHS England decides to make governmental changes, but we have to sort of move and change to mirror that. There was also the reason for our other managements of change was to make sure that we had a robust workforce and a team structure that allowed for improved career progression. Realizing that we're really advanced in some areas, but clearly lacking the basics in others. An example of this might be that we were doing incident, change, problem, risk, event management, but didn't have a service catalog. This meant that the service desk would handle tickets and log tickets really professionally, but they couldn't give clear answers straight away. And people would often say, well, that was really great, but you took ages to tell us that. Couldn't you just tell us that you didn't support that in the beginning? With a bespoke system, we've struggled to meet the MI section, as I'm sure, I think James is talking about that later. In our case, we do have an excellent data warehouse team that produced me an SDI dashboard, but not all the actions and functions were being captured through our SMT product. This meant that a number of hours of app development and warehouse report building were needed before we were in a really good position to do our first audit. It was also clear that while we had achieved ISO 27001 for a number of years, the granularity of our processes and procedures needed to be improved. What opportunities did we find in year one? It was clear from the outset that our leadership team was fully behind us in our goal to achieve accreditation. I'm incredibly lucky, and this really does make the discussions much easier. Resources were prioritized, and I was able to get the support of an excellent project manager. I'm always supported by my land manager, who does a number of things. He's the lead for service delivery, but he looks after this. My team is the service desk. He looks after our app dev team, our IT orders team. He does all sorts of things. But we've also been supported by our business operations and quality improvement lead in getting our policy and procedures written and kept up to date and reviewed. which is an ongoing challenge. If anybody knows me, I love to procrastinate and I love to leave things to the last minute. I'm pretty sure while everyone was watching the football, I was busy making my presentation right. We soon realized that was not an accreditation for the service desk alone. It's really important to show the importance of the relationships that the service desk has with all parts of the business. There's no way you can go into an audit without working closely with those that are on the panels with you. And it's also really important to celebrate the work you're doing to gain accreditation. Without it, it can seem like a tick box exercise to some. Believe me, being challenged as to why I was putting up signage in the office while on top of a ladder is really character building. It's rare you get the opportunity to get honest feedback for your work on the service desk. This could have gone down as a challenge, but we really see it as an opportunity to really improve and grow. Take the opportunities that you get to build your brand, if you want to call it that, but the services brand or the certification brand. Why are you doing it? And we had a number of away days. We tried to have one a year. Obviously, the last year we couldn't do that. We've got one planned again for October, where I had the opportunity to stand up and explain to all the people that work for the HIS why we're doing accreditation, what it means to them, and what they could gain by it. We got 2-star accreditation. It was, as I've written few, it was really, really tough, but very, really rewarding. It's a bit of the unknown. When you've not done it before, you're not really sure what you face. It would have been really nice if I could have joined or realized I could have joined these sort of webinars before and heard from other people. I mean, I know that now, and I really do value what the SDI brings us. Year 2 challenges. So many of you will know that during this time, if you're doing accreditation over the last few years, we were on version 7. We were assessed at version 7, and we were audited at version 7, but our surveillance was on version 8 standard. It was really clear as we did our mapping exercises that the standard had moved a number of areas to a position which we wouldn't meet or meet well, and removed some which we held strongly. We continued to look how we could improve and develop the plan. And then COVID hit. COVID's had an impact on everybody and on our organization in ways we'd not anticipated. The service desk were very well prepared to deal with the issues that normal business continuity to disaster might throw up. We'd already supported our organizations with a major server farm roof collapse, an accidental release of fire retardant in the server farm in a supplier accident. We have videos. And being prepared to even lose a number of our support sites had been planned and rehearsed, but the loss of all our sites and needing to work from home from not. The behaviors of our users had to change. Majority of our partners sent all their staff home. One of our partners is not intending to come back to their buildings until, I believe, next year, March. This meant that user behaviors changed, the times they called us changed. Very simply, you normally get one call from a whole office. Now you get 50 people calling you for a problem. So things just took longer. We created our own COVID level monitoring and linked plan for all our departments with a daily meeting to adjust and inform staff. That was at the peak of the pandemic. The service desk themselves, we had to move away from our traditional IPT platform and onto Teams-based telephony. This wasn't such an issue, except that we had no reporting, which put my MI section at risk. For the customers, there was no change in the support we provided them, which we're really proud of in some way. We made a conscious decision not to change our SLAs and KPIs to business continuity levels. And despite a massive increase in tickets, we remained focused on our task and mission. And the reason we didn't do that, and it was a question we asked John. I rang him up and I said, John, what? I'm never going to meet my MI. And he said, well, why don't you put on BAU? And in the end, we didn't do that because in the NHS, we can't just close the doors and walk away. So we buried our customers and how they operated and tried to do our best, really. I mentioned earlier that we had an application called Fusion. Because it was electronic and available to all our customers, it seemed the perfect application to manage COVID responses and testing, with results often going directly from our clinical laboratories to the end users that were using it without paper, without booking. It saved hundreds of hours of administration and paper-based reporting, which was simply not an option at the time in the pandemic. However, for the service desk, we rely on the developers to support our ITSM tool, which meant that some of our developments were put on hold to allow them to focus on this important and vital work. Best practice, I've written, it's named for a reason. I would have said that as a team, we worked extremely well with excellent knowledge and supported our customers with their systems with confidence. But we soon realized is that it was heavy reliance on the service being in the same room, allowing us to hear what was going on when the volume of tickets increased, the ability to quickly change tack and refocus resources, and more importantly, that they needed the tacit knowledge of their supervisors and seniors to operate effectively. We were still able to answer the tickets and triage calls, but the time it was taking was almost double. Year 2 opportunities. And strange thing to say, do we find opportunities in the middle of a pandemic? Well, we did, and we can. We really had to refocus our efforts in terms of picking up the issues being raised through our trusts to support them with their COVID responses. This was often very last minute. Buildings were being opened, buildings were being closed, big vaccination centers being opened and closed, and we really need to be really quick with our responses. We're to listen to our users, and as we know through ITIL 4, listening to users has become important to understand that we were actually supporting their real outcomes, not necessarily those of the IM&T departments within our trust, but the actual outcomes of our users. We had to adapt to the technology really quickly, and these needed to be rolled out under emergency conditions with reduced timescales, as everybody knows about Teams and Zoom, and this was really vital in the provision of care in our mental health trust. Anyone that's sat in an audit with John will know about Jam for Tomorrow, and he's got a copyright there. We had tons of things like this. It really means that you're doing things in a really good way, or things are in the pipeline, but they're not quite good enough to evidence at audit or evidence adequately. We had plenty, and I could have opened a farm shop. Automation shift left and SMT first. So with the support of our networking systems and app dev teams, the HIS developed automation to allow for the creation and administration of network shares, shared mailboxes, group management, and distribution lists. This is all automated in SMT, and owners can administer their own groups and mailboxes. Individuals requesting access would automatically generate requests to the owners to approve. This was tracked, completed, and reported without any intervention by the service desk. If the service desk do have to intervene in these, they can be played back into automation, so it can just continue. We don't have to pick up the ticket at that point. We've allowed line managers and practice managers, if they're in GP surgeries, to create their own accounts for staff. These get delivered within 5 minutes, 24 hours a day. So the need for generic accounts to be used, particularly in the NHS, is not something we want to encourage, but they don't have to do that anymore. The product then interfaces with ESR to link up the users and continue to action them as they move through their life cycle and our access management policies. We're just about to launch a new account management solution that takes into account just-in-time provisioning of licenses. For those of you that use Microsoft licensing, you'll know you pay for it the minute you turn it on. We're basically going to pre-provision them so that they're only actually used if the individual starts and if the line manager says they start a day or two before they actually start. We are really focused heavily on using shift left concepts, and we've developed an option for the product to change IPT displays, voicemail setups, or transferring ownership of IPT devices. This used to be done all by third line, but now it's managed by the service desk using the SMT product, all actions are recorded on tickets. Any new solution that we bring into BAU has service design principles, making SMT the primary control product with a view to shift left, and ultimately the end users do this themselves. We currently have, as an example, is Microsoft 365. That's something that the seniors on the service desk and networking systems can only do at the moment. But what we do is we bring it into SMT so that the services can do that themselves, again, audited, controlled, and actioned on tickets. We again received a 2-star certification. For me personally, it was a little bit disappointing, but we understood why. It was noted, however, that without the ongoing impact of the pandemic, it would have been possible to achieve 3 stars. So that's where I wanted to be. Have we got anywhere? So this is the year we're in now. Our continual service improvement program has taken off, and this has become absolutely integral to our operation. Every member and staff on the HIS is encouraged to suggest improvements via a portal, which are reviewed by our service management team, senior management team rather. And more importantly, these are tracked and each has a resulting ticket to allow them to be properly implemented or opened up for wider discussion. Often people don't know that we already do something, which is quite interesting. These get given to the seniors on the service desk, or me to go and chat to the individuals to say what you've asked for, we've already got. That improves our reporting and our knowledge bases in other areas. We took the opportunity, and feedback from our surveillance audits last year, and each line we didn't meet was matched to an appropriate line in the standard, and then entered into a tracking document, which allowed us to add every single one of those actions to the CSI. I know it sounds like overkill, but the CSI is a really living document now. It lets us track the progress of each on a monthly basis. We did realize that the change from version 7 to 8 created a real big issue in our reporting and NMI sections, so these all workshopped separately with our data warehouse team. Problem management, the value of improved problem management processes and procedures that have already shown value to us, but by directly giving the technical teams the workarounds, we saved hours on the time for tickets to be resolved. This is now really being evidenced and has shown value through the SDI reporting dashboards that I've got. I think the service desk are probably really tired of me highlighting the importance of problem management. This wasn't done in a negative way. It was really done to highlight the benefit to them and show them the benefit to end users and their increased confidence when supporting our staff. We've also now incorporated proactive problem and reactive problem management. We're currently rewriting problem management elements in S&T to incorporate the new ITIL 4 practices. In the past, we would have used service requests as an example to highlight to our customers that they needed to do something about a supplier or a system that was out of our control. We sit in a space that is not quite internal IT to the hospitals or the trust, and not quite an MSP. So sometimes we're dealing with a number of their issues that aren't ours, where we suggest that it's not our issue to resolve. We did this as an example, through service requests, which are costed slightly differently. But we really realized that wasn't going to work for us under ITIL 4. So what we did is we've shown the value in categorizing and prioritizing using problem management and reporting them to them appropriately through our service review meetings. As an example, we use proactive problem management to pick up failed BIOS and OS and Office upgrades. So the system will recognize that an incident from an event was created, the issues reported, what the issues that's reported by the system, link it to a problem ticket automatically, prompt the user to say, as an example in BIOS, please plug in power into your laptop. If the product then continues to install the BIOS and complete, the incident's closed and reported against that problem, that proactive problem ticket. Didn't take any intervention from the service desk or a single technician. And as you know, in the past, that would resulted in a call to the service desk, or even worse, not being secure enough or being protected for security with Microsoft upgrades. Quality assurance. One of the areas that was highlighted was the real lack of any formal quality assurance. I'm sure for those of you that manage service desk teams for longer than I have as well, fall off your chairs. We just didn't do it, but it's been introduced recently, and we've seen a vast improvement in our customer satisfaction scores. This leads nicely onto the work we've done to try to make sure we communicate with the service desk as they work remotely. We now have a daily huddle. Everybody, including those in the office, join an online meeting with our cameras. We discuss different topics each day for about 5 to 10 minutes. We have these at 11, which makes sure we cover the entire shift pattern, but it's also the end of our busy periods on our phones. For some reason, we have a really compressed busy time between 8 and 11, 8 and 10. We tend to, on a Monday, as an example, talk about the changes that are being implemented that week. We pick that up because we review them, review the changes that are occurring in our cab on a Monday morning. On a Thursday, as an example, we do a round-the-room well-being check with our team, as it's a quieter day, so they can run on slightly longer. The other days, there's always something to add and something to talk about. As an example, this could be like the print nightmare vulnerability this week, and how we have to, what the emergency responses we're doing to deal with that. Some of you might be aware that means literally turning printers off and turning print spoolers off, which isn't a fun game in the NHS, but we've got a specific response to that. And at the moment, it's really nice to see how other teams ask me to add information to our huddles. They can see value in it, and recently people have been asking if they can contribute and sit in or listen to them, and that's from across all the teams, not just the service desk. We've prioritized staff one-to-ones and team meetings. I know that sounds mad, silly. In the past, these were very easily dropped in favor of phones are busy, there's too much work, the backlog's too big. They're absolutely prioritized now. We do not miss team meetings. We do not miss staff one-to-ones. It is difficult to have service desk team meetings. I actually split them in two, and we record them both so they can listen to them back. And we mix up the membership. It would be really great if we could be back in the office and have everyone back together, but that's not an option at the moment, so that's how we do it. I've mentioned that we use Teams for Zoom or other products available, but we were using this prior to COVID and from working from home, but it's become an indispensable tool for collaboration across all our teams. Our yearly survey, staff survey, showed a particular increase in how the services were perceived, how they perceived the respect of others around them in other departments. In previous years, that survey really had a low response in terms of that area, and it was a cultural change, but also we believe that the products that we introduced to improve communication really made a difference. We can really communicate clearly, and they can review things that have happened in the past across shift patterns, but it's the collaboration that we got between teams and being able to ask questions of others and really engage with each other that we've got from using a product like Teams now. Knowledge management, we understood that the services just could no longer rely on information that they held in their own notes or simple shared wikis. This meant that we have now developed a new knowledge base with information that can be shared, but particularly that can be tagged for later use by end users during self-service. It's completely integrated into our logging system, so it can be called from an action, shared with users. Permissions can be granted to users from there directly. It also indicates to them who can use the knowledge. It's going to be linked to our CMDB and linked to problem management. It's also really great for me because it's been developed to maximize our SDI reporting, but without creating additional burdens on staff. So was this useful? Did it actually close a ticket? It's all automated. And that's being launched shortly across all service delivery teams. Nettleforce taught us that you can't operate without understanding the needs and supporting the outcomes for your users. We've always had an event-based survey on our tickets with a yearly customer survey, but this has now been enhanced by ad hoc surveys with specifically designed questions based on the issues the users brought or raised in their feedback. Or if you just want to question a bit more about something, why did they call us about a particular issue? Those are all reviewed by our BRMs and our customer experience group. Our customer experience group is made up of staff and leaders across the whole of the HIS, not just the service desk. We now use a 5-star rating system. It's become the basis for our service desk reward and recognition scheme. And this reports directly into our CSAT scores and our balance scorecard, which we use alongside our KPIs and SLAs that report back to our organizations and customers during our SRMs. As David mentioned, the number of our 5-star stars received has continued to improve across all teams, but particularly on the service desk. Managing information, SLAs and KPIs. During the most recent STI conference, one of the speakers said that you shouldn't worry about SLAs and KPIs. I glanced down at the certification booklet at section 8 and had a good laugh to myself. And then I realized, I was driving to work once and I kept thinking about this, and I thought, it's like watching a fashion show where people are wearing black dustbin bags. In a year's time, you might only find a tiny element of that's brought into the clothes we buy. And I suppose for me, it was about listening at conference and taking away small parts of what they've said. And to me, it was about not focusing too much on SLAs and KPIs, but having a balanced view, which is really important. I think everybody needs, especially service desk leaders, need to really know their stats and be able to articulate the value of them to their teams. I always think about Dragon's Den when they ask about the financial information and they just cannot provide it. And you think, well, haven't you watched this before? But also, don't you know what you're talking about? We really should be able to articulate what happened yesterday. And to that point, what I've started doing is present the stats from the previous day, the previous week on the same day, and our monthly running stats, not spoken about in huddles or team meetings, but just placed where they've got access to it. And every day I make a comment in our chat about why I thought they'd gone in a particular direction. That direction can be quite odd during COVID. Our quiet days aren't our quiet days anymore. They've changed. Our quiet times aren't our quiet times anymore. We have massive fluctuations in our call times and our the volumes of calls, which we can't trend because they're just jumping around too much. We believe it's down to COVID. We believe it's how users are working at the moment or being asked to work differently. But what I was amazed to see is that after all the years of asking people, oh, could you just jump on the phones, it's busy, oh, there's a queue, there's an MI, those individuals on the service desk really started to make the improvements themselves just by looking at the stats, not under any pressure from me or anyone else. Well, I haven't quite got 4 stars yet. That's where I'd really like to be, personally. That's exactly where I'd hope to be at the end of this year, in October. It is coming up soon. It does creep up on you if you've ever done an audit, but that's where I'd really like to be by the end of the year. And I'd really like to take a moment to thank the SDI again for the support of the SDC program. And the other people I like to mention, often not seen. I know Barclays on this call, but there's people like Jeff Toyster and I'm going to forget his name now. Anyway, people who are on Twitter and people who are on LinkedIn who are an absolute support and a community that will just so happily share their knowledge and information about contact centers, about customer service, about ITIL. And I've really gained so much insight from their generosity, and thank you so much for that. And David, thank you. I'm happy to answer any question we've got. I hope I haven't run over too much. No,
a little bit, Robert, a little bit. But it's a great story. And
thanks.
You mentioned it. You're absolutely right. That community word is such a big key around this, right? A key sort of thing on its own. We have run out of time, which is a shame. But I'm gonna. No. I mean, what we talked about there was some brilliant stuff, and there are some questions that have come through. There is stuff about COVID and about again about customer satisfaction and again about volumes. So I'm gonna set you a challenge, Robert, if that's okay. We've got a break at. Let me have a little look. We've got a break at 12:30, and what I'd like to do is revisit these questions at 12:30 for 10 minutes, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Good.
Excellent.
All right, well, just hang around in the background, yeah, and I'll call you back in, yeah, and we'll go through that again at 12:30. So thank you very much indeed for that, Robert. Great, really great stuff, and we've talked about it before about the next steps on that, so that's awesome. Okay, we're going to move on, guys.